welcome to the Transatlantic Sports Show. I'm your host, Anthony Wootton. For those of you who have already subscribed, thank you very much. Subscriptions have gone through the roof recently, and some of the viewing figures on our YouTube channel have been fantastic. The previous episode is like we've not seen before. So thank you very much for watching, subscribing, and listening to the Transatlantic Sports Show. So if you are a listener and you haven't checked us out on YouTube, then please do. And then likewise, if you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, actually, I want to catch this while I'm on my run or on the drive to work, on the commute, then please check us out on your favorite podcast provider. You can also follow us on social media at TASS_UK. This episode, I got a very special guest. It is a Brit abroad covering the New York Jets. He is Andrew Gamble, writer for the Mirror US. He has been covering the Jets this offseason. We're going to be looking ahead to that Monday Night Football game, the New York Jets at the San Francisco 49ers, plus much more. So let's get to it, shall we? And also, we got a very special guest as well, an appearance on this program from an All-Pro. More of that to come, but let's get to it. Here's Andrew Gamble. Delighted to say that joining me now is a good friend that I've made through the NFL International Writers Network. He was based over here in London. He's now stateside, living our dream. Everybody dreams of this, don't they? You know, if you want to get into covering the NFL, you want to base yourself stateside. And where better than in the Big Apple, New York City, in the Upper West Side, and then from your office looking out at the Hudson and the Statue of Liberty. There she is, my good friend. It's Andrew Gamble, who's senior US sports writer at Mirror US. I've done that right? Mirror US or US Mirror? Andrew, either way, welcome back to the UK virtually.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, we got, you got there in the end. You covered all the bases. Mirror US. That absolutely works. It's it's a pleasure it's a pleasure to see you. Pleasure to, I mean, obviously I saw you 3 weeks ago over here.
3 weeks ago, man. Yeah.
But yeah, pleasure to be back on the show, ready for the NFL season. I mean, like you said in your fantastic intro just then, it's something I've always wanted, to come out here and cover all American sports, but the NFL really is the big one for me. So yeah, we're here on the eve of the season and couldn't be more excited.
Mate, yeah. Look, you're in enemy territory, aren't you? You're covering the Jets. We'll talk about the Jets in just a moment, but you are a Patriots fan. I mean, you've got a bit of family history connected with the Boston area, which is where your love of US sports comes from, right?
Yeah, for sure. When I was younger, my cousins they moved out to Boston. So I've kind of I've adopted all the Boston teams really as my home teams really for the across all the sports. So really that kind of became the love for the Patriots kind of became the love for Tom Brady, really, if I'm being completely truthfully honest. But yeah, I mean, look, it's an exciting new era. It's an exciting new era with the team. We've got the Drake May draft. I mean, every team, I think when you're languishing at the bottom of the NFL, the thing that you really want to cling on to, I think, is hope. I think that's the thing that the NFL sells, right, with the draft process. More than maybe any other sports league or compared to maybe European sports in that way. So yeah, getting behind a franchise quarterback or a young franchise quarterback, we had that with Mac Jones, but I don't know, there's something about Drake May and his preseason performances that is really looking, maybe like a Josh Allen light. Obviously that's staying in the division, but if he can even come up in that mold, at least we get something exciting at quarterback. Or at least we get the hope, and we'll see what happens going forward. Even if we get Jacoby Brissett until Halloween or so, or maybe even longer. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's the NFL. It's the new NFL season. You're just excited to see the team out in the field. So yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go. I think it'll be a long year for the Pats, but I'm ready for it.
A long year that brings the Pats to London. I was going to bring up the Pats a little bit later in the program, but let's kick off with that. We had a beer in New York a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, as you said, from time of recording, $19 a pint. I mean, my goodness, when that bill came, man, I was thinking, I'll get this one. Oh no, we're going to split this because it came up to $70 for 4 pints of beer. But good times were had, and it was the preseason game, wasn't it, with the Philadelphia Eagles that night, and we were discussing Drake May and Jerod Mayo as well. So you seem optimistic ahead of the new season. You said yourself, it's going to be a long season, and the Patriots are going to come to London, and we'll talk a bit more about London because you are an NFL author and you've written a fantastic book looking back at the history of the NFL London games. More of that to come, but let's talk about your Patriots right now, and let's start with Jerod Mayo, who took over from the goats of goats as far as head coaching is concerned. It's also going to be a weird season this year because it's going to be the first one in decades that there's no Bill Belichick on the sidelines, but Jerod Mayo has got big shoes to fill. Ironically, a guy who was drafted by Bill Belichick not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is, this guy, Jerod Mayo was a fantastic linebacker for Patriots. When I remember, using him on Madden, for example, right? Like yeah. You see, the linebacker core, I think with Brandon Spikes as well on that defense for the Patriots. And he's obviously come through the New England kind of framework, if you will, kind of risen through the coaching rankings, was obviously served as Belichick's like linebacker coach last season. And yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, I think because we don't know what to expect. Everyone's kind of hoping for the best. It's difficult because obviously you see, well, what we've seen kind of more recently in the NFL is the rise of these young offensive-minded coaches, right? The trend kind of kicked into life by Sean McVay, really, I think, in his success with the Rams. We've kind of seen everyone scrambling for these kind of offensive minds. We saw Dave Canales, for example, going to the Carolina Panthers is going to be an interesting thing to watch to try and, I guess, salvage Bryce Young after last season. Savage feels a bit tough after one year, but he's the first overall pick, so the pressure's always there. But I think with the Patriots, Jerod Mayo is a guy that the team trusts, the ownership trusts especially, which is obviously important because Robert Kraft has obviously such big influence on the team and the organization. So I think it's gonna be. It's difficult to know what to expect, especially offensively. Even last season, well, I say even last season, the last few years with the Patriots, right? We've seen, even from the end of the Brady years, the lack of kind of game-breaking talent, right, on offense outside of the quarterback position. Maybe even with Brady, that was kind of why Brady's genius was almost put on this pedestal, was because he was getting kind of unknown guys to perform, and now Mac Jones can do that, Cam Newton can do that. It shows what the GOAT can do. So we've got now, with Brissett, we've got something, but it's a young team now. I think Hunter Henry is a tight end. He'll get solid production, but I think the receiving core is really where it's going to be something, I think, kind of exciting this year. Jalen Poker, I think we took him in the second round. I think he was taking the second round for the Patriots. The guy to watch. I've taken him a few fantasy leagues because I think he has a real chance to be the wide receiver one for the Pats out the gate. So I think it's an exciting year in that regard. I'm not expecting a lot of wins. I think it's definitely going to be a growth year, and then maybe see where they end up in the draft. Maybe they enter the Travis Hunter sweepstakes come the end of the year. So we'll see. I mean, it's just going to be. I think it's just an exciting year because while it's sad to see Belichick go. I mean, obviously, I think in my opinion, he's the greatest coach, or at least the greatest defensive coach of all time. So while it's sad to see him move on, and I think he was pretty harshly treated towards the end. New era brings new hope, brings optimism aplenty.
Exactly, yeah. And look, they're doing the right thing, aren't they? Not putting Drake May into the deep end. Because you look at the start that the Pats have and the run those first, 5-6 weeks of the season. Maybe you mentioned there Halloween, maybe get to London, the other side of London, and see where Jacoby Brissett has taken the Patriots. You don't want him seeing ghosts. We saw Sam Darnold seeing ghosts against the Patriots a few years ago in 2018, 2019, around then when he was drafted. But yeah, I think just let May just hone his skills, learn off Brissett, and then just ease him in, because we know that he's the quarterback of the future and hopefully the face of the franchise for years to come. But you don't want to rush things too much. I think, for me, a sad sign for the Patriots this offseason was when Brandon Ayuk was offered up as trade potential. And you've got a star wide receiver like that, but turning down. Of course, I'm a 49ers fan, and I love the fact that he's re-signed with the Niners, and we've got him for another 4 years, well, 5 years still he's contracted with the 49ers for. But from a Patriots standpoint, if that was the Brady era, guys would be queuing up to join the Patriots. But it's just a sad state of affairs, really, where you have such a star wide receiver who would be an ultimate number one wide receiver, and who knows what numbers he could put up for the Patriots, but turned them down when the trade offer was there. He'd requested a trade, and the Niners have gone, okay, well, here are a couple of options for you. The New England Patriots are one of those. But just as things stand, it's just, it wasn't an appeasing or an appealing proposition or opportunity for Brandon Ayuk. Who knows? In 2-3 years' time, the Patriots could be back up there as one of those attractive franchises to go and play for. But right now, it's a team that's in transition, isn't it? And we're just gonna let these roots grow, and those roots stem with Jerod Mayo and Drake May. But hopefully, those two, they can be joined at the hip, and who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're bang on with the Brandon Ayuk thing. I think when I saw that report that it came out, that the Patriots reportedly had the most money on the table from across any franchise, or whether trade offer or 49ers. And he turned that down, which was a surprising twist, because honestly, you don't see that much in the NFL. Usually, if a player is demanding a trade like that, they're thinking, quite rightly, they're thinking that they're going for the money, right? They're going for the bag.
Yeah.
But it's not often then you see that they turn that down in favor of potentially staying or going somewhere else. Usually, it might be for the winning aspect of it, which I guess is probably why he stayed in San Francisco. I imagine it's quite nice, and probably staying in the warmer climate of California, maybe compared to Massachusetts. But I think you're right. I think it was an ambitious move from the Patriots, and if it came off, I think people would have, the Patriots have cap room. One of the things that Belichick blessed the franchise with before leaving was making sure that really they had a lot of cap space going forward. And the Patriots didn't use that really that much this season, so that'll stay going into next year and whatnot. But I think maybe the Ayuk trade or a big swing like that maybe came a little bit too early. I think maybe if Drake May shows some promise, maybe towards the end of the year, or has a good starting year, maybe in 2025, I think maybe that following off season 2026, or maybe even next year, if the end of the year looks really promising, the Patriots could go for another swing like that and add another playmaker to the offense. Maybe someone who's a bit more experienced in the league in the Brandon Ayuk kind of mold. So we'll see. I think, yeah, like you alluded to, I think it was just a little bit too early.
Yeah.
But because you want, I think especially with the receiver as well. And sometimes it is. I say that's the standard practice, right? That a receiver kind of chases money, or a player chases money in the NFL. But it almost is annoying sometimes when you see a player go to a team where their future kind of on-field prospects are a bit diminished in favor of taking an extra few million a year. So almost you kind of want to almost applaud Brandon Ayuk for kind of playing his hand, and maybe he went a bit early, and maybe for the 49ers it became more drawn out than it needed to. But he ended up getting them the deal he wanted from, or maybe not exactly what he wanted, given it took some time, but he got an agreeable deal for him. I think $30 million a season, around that figure. So just stay in the Bay Area, stay with the 49ers, stay in a system he knows, with a quarterback who knows, in a year, following a year where he broke out really last year as a true kind of downfield threat in the NFL, maybe even the leading threat. I think he led the league in yards per reception. So I think it's looking good for Brandon. I think that was what he wanted as well. There are certainly worse places to live in America than the West Coast, and on a winning team. So, and really the 49ers needed to do that as well, I think.
Yeah.
To given the Purdy situation, this is a team that has been on the cusp of winning it all now for a few years, and you don't want to keep always talking about maybe a team's Super Bowl window all the time. But obviously with Purdy's deal, it feels like this is certainly maybe the last real crack that they get with this team, before it gets somewhat reshaped and going forward. I mean, you can always manipulate the cap and whatnot, but yeah, this feels like a good chance for 49ers, and yeah, they did well to keep it together. So
Yeah,
we'll see what
they've
happens.
done a lot of restructuring this. Well, even this week, there's news that they restructured Deebo Samuel's contract, just to make way to, or to allow them to re-sign Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk. So I agree. Look, as I said, everybody knows watching and listening to this podcast that I'm a 49ers fan. You can see the logo in the background up there, and there is a window, and the window is only open for a certain amount of time unless you structure things in a certain way, like the Patriots did back in the day, like the Chiefs are doing, and you would hope that the 49ers have been able to do. So yeah, it's an exciting season, I think, on the West Coast in 2024. But we were talking about your Patriots there, and I think it could be genuinely an exciting free agency in 2025. But we've got the 2024 season to get through, and we've got the Patriots coming to London that we can get excited about. You've been following the New York Jets in your post out there in New York this offseason, and we'll look ahead to that Monday Night Football game, and who knows, maybe in a few weeks' time, ahead of the Jets coming over to London when they face the Vikings, we'll get you on again, and we'll talk about the Jets in just a moment. But as I said, Andrew Gamble, you are an author, you're a published author. You wrote this fantastic book here, The Special Relationship. As I mentioned, it looks back at the NFL London games and also American football in the UK. But it's a fantastic read. And those of you who are excited about the new season, you've got your tickets for the NFL London games, and you want to relive some of those memorable moments, or every moment in particular, from the NFL London series going back to 2007. Andrew has catalogued it in this book. It's a fantastic read, a great piece of work, Andrew. I just wanted to, because you've written about it and you've catalogued the London games, the Twickenham, Tottenham, Wembley Stadium games. Is there one in particular that stands out for you? What's your most memorable or favorite NFL London game? And I'm sure it's going to involve a certain TB12.
I mean, it's funny because the Tom Brady games in London are obviously amazing because they're the ones where the goats come over. I mean, obviously to be fair, actually, I think those games maybe so. I think it was so early in the NFL's kind of trips to the UK that maybe I don't think Brady had established himself as the GOAT. I think he was still behind Montana at that point. But I mean, obviously he was a worldwide icon already at that point. A bit household name in the NFL. So the Tom Brady ones are up there, but I'm gonna go with one which I was in attendance for, but as a fan, which was I think the San Diego Chargers. I'm pretty sure, but it was the year before they moved to LA against the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
It was a fantastic atmosphere, as all London NFL games are, quite frankly. But it was just a brilliant game. We had the big plays. Phillip Rivers was there, who's obviously one of the game's great, in modern times, great quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota was doing his thing with the Titans. I had my Mariota jersey that is now somewhere in my cupboard, somewhere, or wardrobe rather. Yeah, it was a great game. I mean, I think Mariota scored the Titans scored a touchdown right at the end. Mike Vrabel went for two to win it rather than it goes to overtime, which was great because it meant I could get my train home. Otherwise we would have been looking at a bit of a testy situation. But no, it was just fantastic, and I think the fact that it went down to that final play as well, the atmosphere just went up a whole notch. Fans who might have been a bit more casual and kind of just enjoying the experience, maybe suddenly realized what was at stake, because it was the entire game was down to one play, and that's the kind of stuff that you live for. So I think for me, it was that kind of sticks out in my head as a very memorable moment. For me, I mean, yeah, going as a fan was fantastic, and yeah, now I won't be there this year, but I've become a regular, obviously, with going in as a reporter. So
Yeah.
What about you? What sticks out in your mind?
Well, I mean, if you look in the background, that is me and Keenan Allen from that game in 2018, the San Diego Chargers against the Tennessee Titans. And that, you're right, that was late October. It was October 21st, I think it was. And it was it was hot, wasn't it? It was such a hot day, and Wembley's a bowl, and once the sun goes is in, it's almost like a sauna. I just remember like sweating like anything, and thinking it's late October. And I think the opening drive, it was Philip Rivers down to Keenan Allen, wasn't it? And a touchdown, first couple of plays it was on that drive to kick things off. And as you said, it went right to the end. I mean, I think of the Redskins as they were back in the day, and the Bengals that game, which went to overtime. That was an exciting game. Kirk Cousins coming over for that one. Of course, I've got to think about my. Go on.
Was that one the draw?
That's right. Yeah, it went to overtime. Yeah, yeah. Was it 27 all or 28 all? Going to that was late in
something like that.
I think it was like October 28th, like 2018. No, sorry, 2016. But yeah, that was the first overtime in the London games. I keep calling it the London series, but that's MLB. But yeah, in the London games, that one went to overtime. I met Thierry Henry that game as well, because as you know, being in the presence of the media, we get great access to these games and get down to the tunnel. By the way, if you are watching or listening to the Transatlantic Sports Show, you want to hit subscribe to this podcast, because I cover the NFL London games, and the thing that I do is to get the podcast out as quickly as possible. So even if you're on your way home, you might be able to catch it before you get home, the podcast, or it's there for you to relive those glorious Sunday weekends in October. On that Monday morning, it's the morning commute, and you're thinking about how great yesterday was in the NFL games. We've got you covered here in the Transatlantic Sports, and we get access to the tunnel. So I was down in the tunnel. It was just after the players had gone out. So Thierry Henry and there were some other footballers, but all I could think of, this is Thierry Henry, were in the tunnel. They were milling around because they just come off the field and let the players go out. So I asked Henry for a selfie, but it's the most blurred selfie you could ever imagine. But he's not the kind of guy you go, actually, that's blurry. Can we just do that again? He was like, yeah, okay, I'll smile. And then off he goes. But yeah, Thierry Henry. It's full of stars down there in the tunnel and behind the scenes at these international series games. My most memorable one, I mean, it's got to be the 49ers against the Jags. First ever Jacksonville Jaguars game over here, October 27th, 2013. It was my birthday, and the 49ers won 42-10. Colin Kaepernick with a couple of touchdowns that he rushed in. Vernon Davis, Frank Gore with a touchdown. That was the strong Jim Harbaugh team. And as a 49ers fan, just to see your team dominate the way that they did in that game was memorable. But there's been one of my favorite moments was when the Jacksonville Jaguars finally got over the hump and they beat the Buffalo Bills. There was a sense of occasion there that the fans were suddenly invested in the Jags. Everybody was waiting for that victory and the touchdown, and the manner that they won it. It was just this sense of relief. That classic shot of Steve Young saying, "Get that monkey off my back," when he won the Super Bowl with the 49ers. It was kind of like that with the Jaguars. It's like, we've won. We finally won in London. And the whole of Wembley Stadium just erupted. And you thought, this is it. The Jags have made it in London. And I think they've gone from strength to strength from that moment. So that's a really memorable moment from the London games. But we've been blessed with so many good games. I know people, when the teams come out and the matchups, and there's people out there who have a good grumble. Oh, that's absolute rubbish. Why have we got these matchups? But we've been fans for a long time, and we can think back to when we didn't have games over here. So I always feel blessed that we've got football and we get to talk about, we have these memorable moments regardless of the matchup. There's always something that happens at these games. Like with any NFL game, there's always a story, and collectively as UK NFL fans, we can relive and we can talk and share those moments that we've seen right in front of us.
No, 100%. I mean, it's such a blessing to have the NFL kind of coming to London now. I mean, every year we get at least 3 games a year now, which is absolutely insane. If you told someone that 20 years ago, it would blow their mind, right? So it's incredible to see the work they've done. The NFL deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, obviously they're going to Germany. I always had an incredible response to that. Madrid next year, I think, is going to be an incredible response. I think Spain is a bit of a sleeping giant, I think, with American football, which is surprising. I'll be honest. When I was out there, it was actually impressive to see kind of the grassroots NFL or American football being played, which is kind of crazy to me. But I think the Madrid game is going to be fantastic. Obviously, I think it's in the Bernabeu, right? So it's going to
Yeah,
be
man.
unbelievable atmosphere, with that redone stadium. So that's gonna be amazing. I think just for international fans in general, it's incredible to see. We get more players in the league now, with the IPP program and whatnot. So we get all these incredible stories, and we get them coming to our countries every year. So I think NFL deserves a lot of credit. I think with the UK games in mind in particular, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah,
They've
man. Yeah.
like you said, they had to get the monkey off their back because they were losing a lot of games at the start. But then they kind of got over the line and started winning games. And I think it does feel like a home game now for them. And you walk
Yeah.
around London during the NFL season, you see Jags jerseys as much as any other jersey, which is kind of incredible when you think about, the history. There's a lot of, I guess, kind of, obviously the 49ers are very good now, but I'd say there's a kind of a legacy 49ers fans, legacy Dolphins fans from the 80s, right? When NFL was really popular, had that weird popular spike in the 1980s with Channel 4. So I think it's just I think it'll be interesting going forward. But I think the Jags deserve a lot of credit because they've done very well to establish themselves as a base in the UK, as a team that people know in the UK and a team that people support. So I think it's great that they're coming over as regularly as they do. I mean, they're coming over 2 games now a year, so it's
Yeah.
they're really investing in this market and this fan base, which I think the UK audience and fan base, I think, obviously appreciates that.
And last year, when they had the back-to-back games, that game against the Buffalo Bills at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is the week after they'd played their home game against the Atlanta Falcons at Wembley Stadium, there was a real sense of advantage that the Jags have. And, they've invested so much into London, then why not have that advantage? And they've got it again this year. They're playing your Patriots. They wrap up the London games this year at Wembley Stadium, but the week before they're the road team against the Chicago Bears. But that leads me now onto the team that you are following professionally. And I think the Jags have paved the way for teams such as the New York Jets and also the Minnesota Vikings, who have invested because they've got UK marketing rights now, and they've invested in the UK market. And the Jets seem to be, they've taken notice of what the Jags have done and thinking there's a market, there are opportunities there, and they're coming over this year. And I would expect that perhaps they will bring a home game over to London in 2025. But they seem to be really making an effort and up their game in having a presence over here in London. Do you get a sense of that working with the Jets over there? And I say working with the Jets because you're there, you've been covering the team throughout the preseason and throughout training camp. Is there an awareness there that there is they've got a pin on London and the UK and they're ready to take advantage of that market?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you speak to the the staff and whatnot, the kind of behind the scenes kind of administrators who are sorting all of that kind of stuff out, they're obviously very excited. And I think teams like the Jets, like the Vikings, who you pointed out as well, they are really following the blueprint put forward by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's too early to say about the players. I mean, I've spoken to CJ Mosley about it. A few times. The players are aware of it, but I think from their perspective, it's kind of the Jets are all eyes on the 49ers, right? Like they're not focusing on the London game probably until the week before. It's very much that kind of thing. It's certainly not as I think now because the investment from the NFL is kind of paying off in a regard that maybe at the start. And maybe actually for quite a while, it was a bit of an alien thing to be going across to the UK. Now it feels much more like, especially for the Jets, right, who've come over a few times in the last couple of years. Oh, they came over in 2021, I want to say. I think Zach Wilson's Jets.
That's right. Yeah, the rookie year. Yeah, it was the first game back after COVID, wasn't it? It was against the Falcons. That's right. Yeah, Kyle Pitts with his touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah, he did the teacup. I think I think yeah, like the Jets obviously they have an eye on London, and I think the players now they kind of accept it. They're not throwing their toys out the pram, maybe as they might have done 10 years ago, or maybe kind of what we're seeing from the Eagles going down to Brazil with the Packers
Mm,
for tomorrow night's game. From a London perspective, I think it's now kind of maybe not quite business as usual, but I think it's now definitely more like for the players, they're much more accepting of a trip to London than I think they would have been in the past, which again highlights the work that the NFL has done to make that such a regular part of the calendar that players almost maybe don't look forward to the travel compared to a normal home game, especially, or even a normal road game. But it's more it's a thing they look forward to. They look at it as a novelty, I think, from around the game, but obviously the game is very much business as usual, regular season contest. They want to leave London with the dub, I think. I mean, I was at that Bills Jags game last year, and the Bills locker room after the loss was devastated. It was pretty, you could hear a needle fall. It was pretty
mm.
deflated atmosphere. It was almost as if they'd gone out in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, but that hadn't quite happened yet. But they I think it shows, and I think that shows though, like, I mean, I imagine I know the players are like that after every regular season loss, but it just shows, that these players take it seriously. They've accepted the London game is like any other game, really. It just happens to be across the pond. So it's you can definitely see the teams will make investments, especially teams like the Vikings, Jets, 49ers, Bears. But I think we're going to see these teams maybe not as much as the Jags going forward, but I think we're going to see them as a kind of recycled group of teams that we're going to see with obviously different visiting teams, but I think those will be the familiar faces going forward.
Yeah, and if we've whetted the appetite, then I remind you and implore you to go and purchase Andrew's book here. It recounts the NFL London games as well as looking historically back. Andrew mentioned there the glory years of the '80s with Channel 4. It's all covered in this book, The Special Relationship by Andrew Gamble. So please go out and check it if you're going to the London games, or if you're going to miss the London games this year and you want to relive it. This is the book for you, so go out there and get it. Andrew, you've been covering the Jets. I've said that many times now on this program. Let's look ahead to the New York Jets. Yeah, how prepared do you think this team is for the 2024 season? Because there's high expectations on this team, like there was last year, and we all know what happened 4 plays into their offensive drive last year. They're definitely going to hope that lightning doesn't strike twice. And they've got Leonard Floyd on the 49ers now chasing down Aaron Rodgers again this year. But, that aside, they've invested in this team and optimism is high. How prepared are the players? Are the players ready for it? Are they ready to go and potentially make a playoff push and go deep into January?
Yeah, I think so. You talk to some of those guys around, Quincy Williams, who came over, of course, earlier in the offseason to London. I've chatted to him a few times over here, and he's locked in. He's obviously a very jovial, kind of outgoing character, but he is locked in. He's ready to go for the season. He knows that even though the Jets defense performed very well last season, they've got to raise that game again, even if the offense, hopefully from Jets perspective, the offense performs better than last season. But the defense aren't even thinking about that. They've set the bottom line standard from last year. They're looking to build on that. I mean, they've got the mentality going forward that this is a championship defense, and the offense. It's funny because if you want to look at it and go full kind of silver lining, very optimistic viewing of the Jets offense, or view of the Jets offense going into the season, the offensive line last year wasn't up to scratch. We saw that 4 plays in. We knew that going into the season, and obviously they got the most devastating result possible. This year they've had a quieter off season, apart from the Hassan Reddick drama. They've had a quieter off season. In terms of expectations, they've had a quieter off season. It's the NFL still put them on the most primetime games, or with the big boys, but I think the Jets are, they've rebuilt that offensive line, and they've got in Tyron Smith, the Olu Fashanu, the rookie. I think they're gonna they've retooled that offensive line. I think they're going to lean. I think we're going to see Breece Hall be
Mm,
very relied on, and he has been exceptional since coming back from his knee injury from 2 years ago. He was exceptional last year. I think he's going to get, obviously they're going to, I think maybe certainly at the start of the year, they want to, bleed Rodgers into it. I think we're not going to see Rodgers at his best, maybe the early few get this from the start of the season. I think they're going to lean on the run game hard because what's his name? Breece Hall is fantastic running back. They're going to go on him pretty hard. I think the Jets are very optimistic. I think Garrett Wilson, especially, we saw him last season getting frustrated maybe at the quarterback play. Now he has that quarterback there ready to go. It's going to be interesting. I think the Jets going to be really fun to watch. They have a big test against the 49ers, obviously on Monday night. And I think the absence of Hassan Reddick hurts particularly because obviously Trent Williams hasn't been with the team as long. So if they had an extra edge rusher, it might be, Robert Saleh would probably be a bit happier. But look, I think the Jets going to be, it's difficult. It's difficult to say. I think the players are ready. I think this is what they've been building to now really for not 2 years, but for 2 off seasons. This is what they've been building towards. So, and really it's make or break for certainly for the coaching staff and front office. So I think, and Rodgers is 40, so he's not getting any younger. So I think if he's gonna deliver for the Jets, it's gonna have to be this season. Maybe he'll get a last ride next year as well, but is coming off his Achilles, that's obviously the biggest question mark. But you look around that Jets team, they have great players across the board. That defense is, sensational. Jermaine Johnson has looked really good in training, in practice. They locked up Michael Carter to a new deal, so they've got the defense back. Obviously, Sauce Gardner is sublime. So, it's going to be. I think the Jets have reason to be optimistic, but at the same time, maybe not through their fault of their own. But the Jets usually have some troubles, so it's a bit of a touch wood situation.
Yeah, you look at that defense and you look at Robert Saleh, and I think it's wise that they stuck with Saleh, what the defense has managed to achieve. And you think back, just a couple of years ago, Quinnen Williams was an All-Pro. His brother Quincy Williams was an All-Pro last year. You've got Sauce Gardner, as you said as well, who was an All-Pro. And then on the offense, Breece Hall, as you pointed out. Garrett Wilson's had back-to-back 1,000-plus yard seasons with poor quarterback play. They were bottom 5 quarterback play last year, and he had over 1,000 receiving yards. So who knows what he's going to be with Aaron Rodgers. And hopefully everybody who's drafted him in the fantasy football are going to be hoping that he's going to reach those levels that we've all been hoping and wishing that he could get to. And then, of course, as you said, you pointed out with Aaron Rodgers, we just got to wait and see. But look what Brady managed to achieve at 40 plus years. And Rodgers he's a gold jacket, as Quincy Williams had pointed out when I spoke to him back in March. In fact, let's just cut over to that interview with Quincy Williams and just have a listen to what he had to say about Aaron Rodgers and what he brings to the Jets.
So when Aaron got them, it was more like an energy. Like everything was like brighter. We had a gold jacket type guy. So we had basically all in one person, a coach and a player, all in the same person. So with that being said, the conversation that we had on the field and off the field were more like being a better player. So you want to surround yourself with people that you want to be like, or like where you want to be at. He's a gold jacket type guy. So like, just the random conversation we'll have, the random conversation he'll come up and just have with us. So it's just been amazing, just an energy giver.
So what impact did it have on the team, when he went down? That must have been heartbreaking.
When he went, so for a couple of plays, you got in the back of your mind, just been like, what's going on with him? He just went down. But the biggest thing, when he came out, he told us, like, hey, y'all got a job to do. And it was our first game, too, though, so that was like our statement type thing. So, like I said, overcoming adversity, like, all right, we didn't got to deal with it. Hey, he told us we still got a job to do. Let's get the job done. So that's kind of like our mindset.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. It's a very, very intriguing matchup on Monday night when you think about, Saleh and his relationship with Shanahan, this offensive mastermind, this defensive mastermind, what they managed to achieve with the 49ers when Saleh was there as his defensive coordinator. So they're both going to know how to work each other. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top on Monday night.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even if you kind of flip it and go look at the other side, the 49ers have had a crazy off season, really. obviously they went to the Super Bowl last year and have been one of the best teams in football for the last few years now. But they had the question marks over Trent Williams. They had this whole ordeal with Brandon Ayuk. And Ricky Pearsall got shot the other day, which was one of the most unbelievable stories. I mean, I don't know how you get shot in the chest. The bullet goes clean through, and then you're working out of the facility 2 days later.
2 days later, yeah.
I mean, he could have very easily died. I mean, thankfully, obviously, that wasn't the case. It wasn't as serious as it very easily could have been. But just an unbelievable kind of offseason that the 49ers have had to navigate. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of all line up on Monday nights. I think that has the potential to lead to the most hot takes heading into week 2, because I think no matter what happens, we're going to say, if the Jets win, people are going to be going, this is it. They're going to Super Bowl. Rodgers is back. What's happened to the 49ers on the flip side? If the 49ers win, they've overcome all the offseason stuff, and then the Jets are, in the toilet, maybe is what I'm thinking is that it's going to be I think we're going to see some overreactions coming next week. As you'd expect, heading into the start of the season. But I think that game, obviously, there are some great week 1 clashes that I think we're going to keep an eye on. But obviously, Monday Night Football, that one is, I mean, one of the teams that we're expecting to be a contender in the 49ers, and then a team that really has such unbelievable potential that's been waiting to be realized for so long. So yeah, mouthwatering, really. I think I still like the 49ers to get over the line in that game. But yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be fantastic to see. Just to see Rodgers out there and hopefully last long more than a series, so it'll be good.
Yeah, and he's a North Cowboy as well, and famously or infamously overlooked by the 49ers way back in the 2005 draft when he was expected to go first overall to San Francisco, and of course they went with Alex Smith. So he's got this history with the 49ers. He's going back to home, but close to home in his native North California. So there's all that narrative as well. What I would say is if you've got Deebo Samuel in your fantasy team, he's probably going to be one that you want to be looking at playing. Chances are you're going to be playing him anyways because you would have picked him up in probably the 2nd or 3rd round. But as Brandon Ayuk, eases himself back in to the refamiliarizes himself with the playbook and picks up some of the new schemes that have been drawn up by Shanahan, I think there'll be a lot leaning towards Deebo Samuel. Juwan Jennings as well could potentially be a sleeper play perhaps in that matchup. Let's not forget that he threw a touchdown pass and caught a touchdown pass at the Super Bowl back in February. So the last time he played football, I think Juwan Jennings was potentially on course to being the MVP if the 49ers had won the Super Bowl. I had voted for him multiple times throughout the course of that game while sat in the Allegiant Stadium, and then everything went to pot after that. There's been speculation over the past week or so about a discontent amongst the Jets, and that stems down to Aaron Rodgers and his infamous trip to Egypt, and not partaking in some of the activities throughout the off season. Do you get a sense? Is there a vibe of discontent, or is that just pure speculation? And this team is a unit and ready to go.
It's a difficult one because I think look, winning cures everything, right? Like I think it feels more. I'd say right now that hasn't become. I feel like it's a bit more overblown than maybe it is.
Right.
The way that the whole weird aspect of it was that the Jets kind of how it was all announced. Like if it was done, if the Jets said at the OTAs, which Rodgers was at, of course the voluntary ones. If the Jets maybe just released a statement or something, just gave the media, because they know, right? They're the New York Jets. They're in the biggest sports market in America, the most the media market that has knives out, I think, whenever they can. So I think just to give the heads up, I know maybe the Jets probably didn't think that they had to, Robert, but this is it, is because they tried to downplay it in the moment, and it just felt so disjointed. It felt a bit contrived in the moment. Whether it's correct or not, whether Rodgers did get it signed off and had it all sorted out, it just didn't come across in that way. So I think that has rightly it's just clouded the Jets off season just with that tinge of doubt heading into it. Last year the optimism was all there. Everyone was so believed in the Jets. They were on Hard Knocks. Rodgers laid back. It was all good. I don't think Rodgers has faced the full brunt of the infamously difficult New York media, right? So I think it could be a kind of a powder keg getting ready to blow. I think if they start to lose games and they have a difficult start to the season, obviously that will get brought up and rehashed ad nauseum, I imagine. So I think it's gonna be it'll be interesting. I think if the Jets win and they stay on top of it, this will be in the rearview mirror. No one will even think about it, But I think, yeah, if they start to slide, people are going to look at excuses, and that is obviously one that you could point to as being something that is quite interesting for a starting quarterback not to not be present at that time. So I think,
yeah,
look, it's Aaron Rodgers. He kind of does what he wants in these last 3 years. So we'll see what happens on the field, and then I'll be the judge of it. But yeah, in my opinion, it wasn't a great look, but yeah. We'll see what happens.
Well, look, I mean, Jets fans will be hoping that he doesn't hit the form of 2022, that season where he didn't make the playoffs with the Green Bay Packers and threw his most interceptions for well over a decade throughout that season. But the 2 seasons before that, he was back-to-back MVP. And if they can get that Aaron Rodgers, then everything's going to be all bright and bubbly and smooth, and they'll be cruising on down to New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. Super Bowl 59, that is the talking point. We are at that stage on the eve of the new season. At time of recording, this is Thursday, and Thursday Night Football, by the time you are watching or listening to this, will have taken place. Of course, we can't see into the future, but we can predict the future and who's going to make it to Super Bowl 59. So, look, we're going to be sharing these predictions with you without the knowledge of the Chiefs and Ravens result on Thursday Night Football for the opening kickoff. But Andrew Gamble, with all your NFL genius and your years of experience covering the sport, who are you predicting will be facing off at Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans on February 9th?
Well, it's the question on everyone's lips. It's it's a difficult one because there are so many. There are a few teams that I really believe could be there are a few teams that I want to back here, but the issue is I really like the Cincinnati Bengals, right? I really think if they get it all together, if Jamar Chase signs his deal and gets out on the field, I think the Bengals are going to be really difficult to stop. But I think you can't. Well, in my opinion, I don't think you can bet against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, look, I think the NFC. There are a few teams again that can come out of there, and it wouldn't surprise me. I really like the Lions. I really like the Packers as well. I think the NFC North is now with the Bears as well, potentially looking exciting heading into the year. I think that's gonna be a tough division to call, but I think I'll go Chiefs over the Packers. I like. Oh yeah. Yeah, 49ers could be there as well. But I don't want to go against I don't want to go against the Chiefs. I think I would much rather get this prediction wrong than go against Patrick Mahomes and he wins it again. So I'm a slave to history. But this is what Patrick Mahomes does. This is what he does. He wins. And they had the Chiefs went into last season and endured the regular season last year and looked far worse than I expect them to look this season. So, and they still came out and they still got it done when it matters. So, yeah. Look, they've had a noisy off season, but look, I think this is going to be three-peat history.
You know what? I mentioned this with Jesse Newell, who is the beat writer for the KC Star on the last Transatlantic Sports Show. If you want to check that out, then please go check us out on your podcast provider. Whilst you're there, subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Also, episodes are available on YouTube, TASS_UK. But on that previous episode, I said to him that no sooner had the confetti fallen at Allegiant Stadium than the likes of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, the two biggest superstars arguably on that Chiefs team, were talking about the three-peat. And then throughout the training camp and throughout the offseason, the first day of training camp when Patrick Mahomes is there with the rookies before the veterans had even got there, days before. Patrick Mahomes is talking about the 3P. Andy Reid is talking about the 3P. And then the veterans come in. This team is locked and focused. And there is that sense of Chicago Bulls of the 90s and those Jordan Bulls who did 2 3-peats, and this team is locked in. And I think you've got a coach, a genius of a coach, the best of the bunch available right now in the NFL, who's focused on the 3P, and you've got Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce is not even considering retirement, no matter how broken or bruised his body is, because he wants that 3P. And I'm with you. I can't see past the Chiefs because of how focused they are. And this is a team that all they know is how to win. And I can't see a team being able to get over the hump and stop them from winning. Even they're going to face defeat. They will have defeats throughout the regular season. But when push comes to shove and it gets into the playoffs, that's when Patrick Mahomes shines and when he steps up. And we saw that in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs were struggling in Super Bowl 58 in Vegas. But still, Mahomes found a way to win. And I think that winning instinct and mentality is going to get them to the Super Bowl. Who are they going to be facing, in my view, in the NFC? Call me a homer, but I can't see past the 49ers just because of the strength of their roster. Yes, there's been some uncertainty throughout the offseason, and Christian McCaffrey we've not seen him in any of the preseason games, but I don't think we would have seen him in the preseason games if he was healthy anyways. Of course, they want to protect him because the offense runs through Christian McCaffrey, and if they can keep him healthy, he should have been the MVP last season. He was the offensive player of the year. Then they're gonna go as far as he can take them. And of course, Brock Purdy, let's not forget, has only just had his first preseason as the starting quarterback, because last year his arm was hanging by a thread. He literally tore it off at the elbow. Pretty much. Well, he didn't literally tear the arm off, but you know what I mean. You get the gist. He wasn't throwing properly in preseason. Of course, the year before that, he was the last pick in the NFL draft, and he had Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo ahead of him. So you've got a whole preseason of Kyle Shanahan's playbook and being the number one quarterback, the leading quarterback on the offense. And then you've got Deebo Samuel, who's looking extremely fit and healthy. They're probably the fittest that we've seen him for a long time. George Kittle is healthy. And then Brandon Ayuk once he gets back up to speed. So I don't see another roster as solidly built and stacked in terms of depth as this 49ers team. And injuries do occur. And it does come down to luck as well in an NFL season. It's a violent sport. But I think there's enough there for the 49ers to see them dominate the NFC. The Lions, as you say, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they cope, because there's a different mentality now. There are higher expectations, and how is that team going to be able to cope without that underdog tag now? They've got the expectation, and how is Jared Goff going to be with this Lions team? Because it's still Jared Goff at the end of the day. He's exceeded expectations with the Lions. I'll be interested to see how they fare in a stronger NFC North. You pointed out that Chicago Bears and Jordan Love, he had a slow start to the season, but then he was excellent at the end of the season. But then it was because of him that they'd lost in the divisional round to the 49ers. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how the Packers and how he develops with them. So there's question marks over those teams, which is why I'm going with my 49ers Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but I can't call it. I can't. I've suffered the 49ers and Chiefs in 2 Super Bowls now. Of course, I'm hoping it's third time lucky, but I can't predict a winner on that. But my Super Bowl matchup will be the Chiefs and 49ers in New Orleans. I'd like to say the Ravens, but the Ravens have lost talent on their offensive line, and they've invested in, they've got younger players on their offensive line. So there's question marks around how protected Lamar Jackson's going to be. Of course, he can evade defenses, and they've got Derrick Henry in the backfield. I think that's going to be something that defenses are going to struggle to cope with and contain. But if the offensive line isn't as strong as it has been in the past, there's still question marks around the Ravens, which is why I'm going with the Chiefs and the 49ers. So here's hoping, Andrew, we'll be meeting up and having a beer in Louisiana, and I mean, what there's a strong drink down there in New Orleans, but hopefully if we're both there covering the Super Bowl, we'll hook up and then we can look back and say, hey, we were almost right with our predictions, or maybe we're completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean the latter is usually correct. The NFL, it's difficult to predict. I think everything's got to be taken with a pinch of salt. But I mean, look, I'm just excited. I'm just excited that football's back. To be honest, I think,
man.
and even listening to you just then, right, like saying a little Super Bowl predictions, going through the teams, you can make a compelling case for at least a handful of teams in either conference to go to the Super Bowl and be in New Orleans. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it all to get going. See the new kickoff. That's gonna be fun. So yeah, it's gonna be definitely an interesting season. We got still some there's obviously there's some trade pieces that I'm sure will end up getting moved before the deadline midway through the season. It's great. Football's back. Fantastic.
Football's back. You know what? I was thinking, it's too soon. But then September comes around. And then once it's there on the horizon, you're like, oh my goodness, I've missed it. Because, I love the summer. I love the long summer nights. It's like, no, I don't want football just yet because I want to enjoy the summer. But we're now at the stage, getting up in the morning. It's dark and it's getting dark now at like, 8:30. And you're like, okay, bring it on. Red zone's coming. We've got football. Football is back, as you said. It's exciting time. We've got our fantasy teams all selected and our rosters set for that as well. Speaking of fantasy football, Andrew, something new to the Transatlantic Sports Show. So you are the first to do this. What we're going to do this season, throughout the season here on the Transatlantic Sports Show, is to get our guests fantasy sleeper for that particular week. So week 1, no pressure, Andrew. You're going to lead the way here, but who is your fantasy sleeper for people listening and watching that they should be picking up or setting in their rosters for this week 1?
Oh yeah, it's a tough one to go for, in terms of like a sleeper pick maybe. I mentioned earlier Jalen Polk, the Patriots receiver. I think he's going to take some time to bed in. I think Brissett will probably go towards the safer Hunter Henry, the tight end option on Sunday. So Polk is more of a long term feel. Give me Adonai Mitchell for the Indianapolis Colts. It'll be interesting because I think Josh Downs is injured. So they've got Michael Pittman, of course, the leading receiver. And then Adonai Mitchell comes in. He was so exciting for Texas in college. I think he looked good in preseason, and Anthony Richardson's back. So that Colts offense, there'll be some questions. And they're playing a Texans defense who will obviously they made some big additions on the defensive line. I think Michael Pittman's a good enough receiver. He'll take some of the secondary's attention, might open up some avenues for Adonai Mitchell to leave his mark on his debut in the NFL as a rookie. So that's kind of my outside shout. I also have him in a couple of leagues. So hoping that he can be the key to a win this weekend.
Very wise indeed. And mine will be, as I mentioned him, Juwan Jennings. He's going to be around. I don't think he would have been drafted in your fantasy league. So if you're looking at that flex option and you're looking at your roster, and you're like, I don't know. Juwan Jennings could be a decent shout, especially as Brandon Ayuk. He's got to get himself up to speed, and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and, of course, Christian McCaffrey are going to take the attention away from some of the defense, and especially on those third downs, man. Brock Purdy, his go-to guy is Juwan Jennings, so he could be somebody who could pick up yards and perhaps a touchdown for you as a potential sleeper in that Monday night game as well. So if you've got a couple of guys who are, either you're unsure whether they're going to be starting this week and you've got to get to Monday night, that could be a late selection for you, Juwan Jennings. Look, Andrew Gamble, mate, it's great to catch up with you. I know, like we said, 3 weeks ago we had a beer in New York. Seems like such a long time ago now. But look, you are headed to Minnesota in week 2 for the Vikings and 49ers game. What we'll do, we'll get you back on. We'll hook up again in a few weeks' time ahead of the week 5 matchup, isn't it, with the Jets and the Vikings coming over here. So somebody who will have seen the Vikings up close this season, and of course you've covered the Jets. It'd be great to get your insight ahead of that. But in the meantime, enjoy week 1, my friend. It's here. Go Pats. Good luck to your team, and yeah, enjoy it, man. This is what we're here for, and this is what we live for. I don't let my wife hear me saying that, but this is what we live for.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. For sure, football's back. There's nothing like it. I mean, I was saying to someone the other day, like the NBA is back next month, which is crazy
Dude.
because I feel like that just ended. So
Yeah.
like, we're reaching that time of the year where all the sports are going. English soccer's on, so where I say soccer now, look at that. But we're cooking on all fronts. So the NFL is the one that I'm really looking forward to. I mean, it's the one with the largest off season, right? So it's like you get so excited for it, whereas the NBA comes back and you're like, that's back. Whereas the NFL, you've been counting it down, you've been counting the days, you've been waiting to flick that calendar to September, and here we are. I'm ready to go. Man. It's gonna be a good year.
I can't believe the last game I covered was the Super Bowl, and that seems like such a long time ago. That sounds like a humble brag, but we're going back to February. It's such a long time, as you said. So, Andrew, enjoy. Safe travels next week as well up to Minneapolis, and we'll hook up in a few weeks' time.
Appreciate it, Auntie. Thanks for having me on.
And there he goes, Andrew Gamble, senior US sports writer for Mirror US, living the dream out there on the Upper West Side of New York. And as I said, his office window, he told me his view when he looks out the window is of the Statue of Liberty. It is the stuff of dreams. And there he is covering the New York Jets this season. So check out his work. You can follow him on social media as well. He is Andrew Gamble. And please check out his book. Honestly, I can't sell it enough. That if you are a fan of American football, and of course, if you are listening to or watching the Transatlantic Sports Show, of course you are, and you want to relive some of those memorable moments from the NFL London games, then The Special Relationship is the book for you. You can get it. It was an Amazon bestseller. It's available on Amazon and at all good retailers as well. So check that out. Please hit like and subscribe to the Transatlantic Sports Show. This is it. We're up and running. Thank you so much. I mean, the numbers for the last episode of the Transatlantic Sports Show on YouTube and also podcast downloads are well up. So thank you very much. And if you are somebody who's been referred to us from a friend and you're like, actually, I enjoy this, then please hit like and subscribe and leave a comment as well, either on YouTube or on social media. You can follow us at TASS_UK. As I mentioned, we cover the NFL games in London. We get some great access to those games as well. And we get great interviews with players around those NFL London games. So even more reason to follow us on social media at TASS_UK. I'm at AR Wootton, WOOTTON. And listen to the Transatlantic Sports Show as well. I love doing the special programs around the London games, the audio podcasts, which are available for you. Not immediately, because I've got to put them together, but by the time those evening games, the 9:25 games, have finished on the Sunday night, you'll be able to listen to those special podcasts. So please download and subscribe to the Transatlantic Sports Show. We'll be back next week, looking ahead to week 2 and looking back at some of those big storylines from week 1 of the NFL season. The 2024 season is here. Enjoy it. Thank you very much. Can't wait to share the whole campaign with you and be a part of it right here on the Transatlantic Sports Show. So until next time,